Good evening all and welcome to another video on All How's It Ale. It's Sunday night, which means it's trad beer night, and we're doing a bit of a different video tonight. You can see two beers right there. They're both the same beer, or are they? Wychwood Hobgoblin Ruby. One of them is the 5.2% bottle, and the other one is the, how can I put it? The lesser 5% version that has been released unwittingly onto the public recently by Carlsberg. And let's be realistic here, it's Carlsberg who've done that to us, not Wychwood per se, but here we are. So the point of this video, I would ordinarily do a blindfold test, but I want to do them side by side and I can see everything going on. I'm going to be talking a little bit about why I think Wychwood has completely ruined as a brand, and then we're going to go on to the beer as a whole. Now, I've been drinking Wychwood beer for many years, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Most of it was the Wychwood Ruby, and some of it was, when it came out, the Gold and the IPA, plenty of the King Goblin, and of course a plethora of the other ones, most notably Black Witch, which sadly has been kiboshed and sent away, and then we got given as a shall we say a replacement. It wasn't a replacement, the Diceman Stout. Drunk much of the old ginger beer over the years as well. Dry Neck, you name them, I've had them. Dunkelfester, another one which we lost out on, and a lot of these kind of got ruined by the acquisition of Wychwood by Carlsberg, and the most recent revolt was around the rebranding. Now, the original branding, and I say the original, the old school stuff, where the character was still in the label, was beautiful. The more recent rebrand to this style did not go down too well. There is a Facebook group called the Wychwood Goblins, of which I'm a member, a proud member, I must say, an owner of the Goblins t-shirt, and all the usual jazz. There was a lot of debate on there, and a lot of people kind of were angry at the rebrand because the brand had been watered down massively to something generic on the shelf that looks like this, and not with full of character, with multicolour labels, the silver, the gold, you know, the beautiful artwork, the recognisable standout on the shelf branding that we were all used to. It got ruined, and truth be told, let's be honest, it's going to have been the bean counters who said we need to save some money, let's simplify the labels just to reduce the cost. Because you look at these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 colours, 2 shades of blue, white, black and the red. That's it. Look at that. You know, real simple. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Goblin is still pretty cool, but it doesn't have that same shelf presence that it used to have. And now they're wrecking the beers by changing the ABV. As far as I'm aware, as yet they haven't touched King Goblin. That still remains at 6.6%. Whether or not it's brewed in the conditions that it should be, you know, under the full moon and all that jazz, remains to be seen. Probably never was. It's probably just a bit of a myth and legend. But there we go. And yeah, we come to the beers now. We're at the point where you're changing the beer massively, according to some. You're going to lose fans. You're going to lose the core drinkers who used to drink Wychwood beers day in, day out. And I know it's already happened. There's been a big exodus of people who no longer buy the beers in question. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a fair number of people who no longer buy Wychwood beers because of the change to the branding, because of the acquisition by Carlsberg, because they knew what was coming, of which this might be part of it. And I've read a few reviews from a few people. Luna was the most notable, who said this 5% version is basically rubbish. So we shall have a little look-see and see what we think. So, of course, we're going to use some Wychwood glassware. For the old school beer, we're going to have an older Hobgoblin unofficial beer of Halloween glass. And on the newer 5% version, we're going to have the more recent Hobgoblin glass, just so we can tell the two apart. And we're going to pour the older version. And slight little bit of irony, when they did the rebrand, they got new bottle caps, and the N was nowhere to be found. Both of these have got the N. So yeah, small bit of irony there for me. So the old school 5.2, and I say old school, the older recipe. Let's have a little pour. So we've got a nice caramel colour. The glass needs a proper clean. I'm not going to go mental on the pour. We've got a nice ruby mahogany brown colour with a nice tan head. That should be up close in the glass. Now let's get the 5% version out and see what we think of the difference. It's interesting, it describes itself as the UK's #1 ruby on the label, and it says it's rich, hoppy, malty, easy drinking and fruity. And the pour is seemingly a little lighter, not massively. That'll do. Bit of an aggressive end to that pour. So visually, side by side, to me, just into different lights. They're both set to the same Kelvin. They look about the same. Up close and personal, there's really nothing in it. They do look the same. Let's have a whiff. Old school first. Twiggy brown joy. Malty, dark fruit coming through in abundance, whereas the lighter 5% version doesn't smell the same. It doesn't. I thought that might not be the case. I thought they'd be very similar, and maybe it's just a little bit of unconscious bias going on, but this one has got nowhere near the same kind of aroma. The 5.2 is stronger, there's more malt, there's more hops, there's more fruit. This one, it's similar, but it's so much lighter on the nose. So much lighter. That's a shame. And because that's a big part of what you do when you drink a beer, you have a good whiff, you enjoy it, and it sets the tone for what's to come. Yeah, big, bold, light and insipid. If I was doing my blindfold taste test, this one would get the point straight away. Visually, though, there's nothing between them. So as for the body, let's go for the body test. So the 5.2 first. Medium weight, light to medium carbonation, nice mouthfeel. Whereas this one, the 5%, smoother carbonation, not quite so full in the mouth. It's definitely thinner. Not a lot in it, but it's definitely thinner. Yeah, the carbonation on the 5.2 is more punchy. The 5% is more, well, it's softer, it's lighter, doesn't do the same. And for the flavour, the most important bit, and I've already tasted it, obviously, but there is a big difference. The 5.2 is twiggy, and that's a good thing. It's fruity, it's malty, it's hoppy, and it's quite intense compared to the other. It's got nice, warm, wintry vibes to it, whereas this one, it's in the same ballpark, but the hoppiness is gone. The fruitiness is gone. The whole flavour profile has gone. And Luna Gennard described it as being tasting like raisins. And I see exactly where they're coming from. It's a shadow of its former self. The malt is nondescript. The hops are found wanting. The flavour is lacking. And yeah, the finish though, 5.2. Again, that malt sits on the back end and it's moreish. really moreish, makes you want to go for another sip. Whereas the 5% version is nondescript. It's lacking in flavour, lacking in that malt character, lacking in every possible way. It's the kind of thing that if you asked ChatGPT to give you a recipe for a basic malty brown beer, that's probably what it'd come up with. You know, generic, simple, inoffensive, lack of character. That's what you've got in the 5% version, which is an utter shame. If I was to drink it on its own, you know, I have nothing to compare it to, I'd still be disappointed. I mean, visually, it looks all right. You know, it looks the same to me, to my eyes. It's not as light as I was expecting it to be. It's just not the same beer, Wychwood. It's not the same at all, and there's no point pretending otherwise. It's not Ruby. It's not. It's really not. I'll tell you what it's like. I'll put the video up somewhere up the top. I did the comparison between the Aldi version, I think it was Harper's Ruby, compared to the original 5.2 Wychwood. That's where we are with that one. It's not got the same flavour. It's clearly brewed to a price point, and I get it. I do. But it's going to hit your sales. It is going to hit your sales. There's no two ways around it. I used to buy Hobgoblin beer a lot over the years, and since 2020 I have had to cut back. So my choices for beer, and obviously on my channel I review alcohol free on a Friday, craft beer on a Saturday, and trad ale on a Sunday. I have enough units allowance in the week with my medication to allow myself one extra beer on a Friday night. And quite often I would have gone for Hobgoblin of the variants. But now with this, it's not the same. It won't be my rota anymore. It's not the same. And that's a shame, because as you can see, I've got the Hobgoblin bar mat, I've got Hobgoblin pump clips, I've got Hobgoblin glassware coming out my ears, I've got more Hobgoblin t-shirts and paraphernalia than you can shake a stick at, and they've ruined the beer. Have they ruined it massively? Yes. Had it been a subtle change that was like, yeah, it's different, but it's still good, I'd still buy the beer, I'd still be invested, and I'd still want to go out and buy new beers that they produce, which they haven't done a new one in absolutely ages. Diceman was the last one, as far as I'm aware. They've killed all the good ones. So yeah, that's it for me. I might get the IPA and do a similar video to this, because they've obviously dropped the IPA from 5.3 to 5% as well. Gold, I don't know. I think they might have dropped that. I might do that video as well if they have. King Goblin, I would have to do the video on that one, because I was a big fan of the King Goblin. Huge beer, wonderful beer. Better not ruin that as well. But there we are. That's the conclusion of the video, which would have absolutely ruined Ruby. And we're going to leave it there. And we're going to say, sadly, that was the beer. I've been me. Those down there are the buttons. You know exactly what to do with them by now. You got your like, comment, dislike, and subscribe. Choose any combination of them as you wish. And definitely let me know in the comment section below if you've tried the new 5% version of Ruby and what you thought of it. On that note, leave it there and see you later on. Bye for now.